Great to spend some time with you and have you on the show. And we wanted to take an opportunity to talk about ghost kitchens. There's so many people out there that have been reading articles. They've seen things on the news. They've been hearing a lot about one of these hot new trends, and that's the ghost kitchens. But a lot of people don't really know what are they. I think sometimes people kind of use the terminology incorrectly. They almost kind of mix it up a little bit with like a share kitchen. It's not really that. So I just figured like who best to be able to really kind of peel back the orange and kind of share what that world and what the whole concept is than you, because during the midst of the pandemic, you went out and you actually launched a ghost kitchen concept, and you're actually running the Roots Local Pizza one as well under your umbrella, in addition to the brands that you created on your own. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the whole concept of it and about what you have in Atlanta that you're running day to day?
So when we get customers that come up to the window to pick up their food, we get the same question: what is this place? And there's a multitude of restaurants there, a multitude of kitchens. So if you think of like an inverted food court, where each kitchen operates their own food and their style and things of that nature. We take all of our orders online. We're we don't do any cash transactions. However, some places do. Everyone runs their business a little bit differently. Some take phone call orders and then run it out to the car, curbside. For me, I'm just too busy, and I prefer everyone to order online. My hands are always moving. I'm like an octopus in the kitchen. But the way it really is it's like office cubicles, but instead of offices, they're kitchens. And you work out of your kitchen. You get a tablet that receives all your orders. They're all centralized on one tablet. From a multitude of platforms, the platforms being delivery platforms such as DoorDash, Uber Eats, Postmates, Grubhub, and your website. If your website takes orders, it could integrate into this system that we have. There's many of them out there. Clover's one that would integrate. We use the Otter system, and it integrates all of our orders onto one tablet so that we don't have 20 tablets to keep up with. And it all syncs in through Wi-Fi on a printer. So all of our orders come through just like a regular restaurant on a printer, on a printed piece of ticket. And so we'll hang it up and fulfill that order. Once it's done, we have a little bump tablet. We'll bump the screen. There's a Cloud Kitchen staff who will come to our kitchen, retrieve our order, take it to the front, scan it, and then that sends out a notification to a driver or a customer, have they checked into their tablets up front. And then once they receive notifications, then they come to the window to pick it up. So that's basically what it is as far as like a kitchen aspect. It can be quite complex.
For the listeners, when you describe it as an office cubicle, the customer themselves can't come back to your kitchen, correct? They just come up to the front counter. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So there is a processing center, is what we call it. And that processing center is basically there is a staff that operates the processing center that runs to each kitchen once orders are bumped. There's 40 kitchens where we are. Some facilities have less. Some places may have more. We are one of the larger ones and the first ones in Atlanta. And so basically, the staff operates the facilitating of the orders. So as a kitchen would bump their order, staff goes there, picks it up, brings it to the processing center. They hold it until there's a notification that would go out to the customer. They come to the window, just like just like a drive-through or something like that. But it's actually, you come inside the building and there's signs outside that says food pickup, and it shows them where to go. They come to the window, show them their phone. If it's a driver or even a customer, they'll show them their phone. It says their name, order number, and what they have on the order. And then we verify that it's their order and we hand it off. However, there are newer, this is growing so fast. And so now there's like a locker system. So, if your food fits in a bag or a small enough unit that can be scanned and placed into a locker with numbers, then again, once customers or drivers check in, they just basically go up to the locker number that was assigned to that food, open the door, grab it, and then go. So there's no interaction with any staff. They just
Are those lockers heated, or are they refrigerated, or are they just ambient temperature?
Ambient temp. They're just regular temperature. Ambient. Yeah. So my food doesn't go in there because pizza box. I mean, my concepts that I've done so far, just pizza. And so all of my food goes into a hot box. So they have to go to the counter for mine, and it will direct the customer where to go once they log in.
Steven, one other thing I think that's relevant is a lot of people, I think they're picturing that have never even seen or heard of a ghost kitchen, that these aren't typically, most of them, like the ones you're referring to, are not typically in like these high dollar retail areas. Like they're in more, maybe you can put a ghost kitchen or a series of them in a warehouse or in a business park, kind of more accessible and maybe more favorable real estate terms. So that's what enables maybe the ghost kitchens to go into because you need a lot of space, right? I mean, you have your kitchen. There's the ability to also get coolers if you need extra storage. So yours is in a warehouse area. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the facility once was a studio, which then once was a warehouse. And now it's a cloud kitchen, virtual kitchen concept. But yeah, you're right. People who are into the real estate who buy up these, facilities, in probably the, more lesser expensive parts of town, will then build these facilities, but they also build them in areas that are upcoming and that are actually growing in population. And the construction of apartment buildings and residential is going up. And so the traffic is tremendous there. And so we're in a highly densely populated area with a lot of high rises versus a lot of stretched out land.
Right.
So we pick up a lot of orders just from those, residential buildings.
Yeah. And just to reiterate, like what I mean by that is that it's in a accessible area. And if you were to go and try to put 40 ghost kitchens like in downtown, it would be very expensive to do that. I mean, you need a space that you can kind of spread out and has lots of parking. And when you think about like downtown and you have like maybe a Rite Aid and a nice department store, that's kind of would be expensive to go in and try to do something like that. Where these ghost kitchens are pretty flexible. I mean, you can put these in a lot of different places. You just need, as you mentioned, the density of population. So you have customers. Steven, why do you think so many people what are the benefits of going in with a ghost kitchen concept as opposed to trying to do a traditional restaurant? Like, why was that more attractive to you?
Well, there's a couple reasons. One is the upfront expense and the headache of a build out. I mean, when people had built these, they're already fit and ready to go to pass health inspections right off the bat. And you don't have to put in grease traps, hood systems, all that cost is already absorbed. So you're paying a fee to rent the unit, and then whichever equipment that you fit that does your style of food. And so as far as cooking equipment goes, the other thing that other people would choose to do this is because maybe it's a proof of concept. Maybe they didn't want to go full-fledged into a big restaurant, $300,000 to $400,000 investment, and they want to, maybe they could afford just a proof of concept of $50,000 to $60,000, and just to get it going. And if it works, great. And then sometimes it works so well that they're moving out into a brick and mortar. So it's a great beginning. It's a great startup. And it also keeps overhead down as far as staff. I've worked that kitchen, for about a year and a half, going on 2 years. And it's been about 2 people in that kitchen at any given time. It is a rather small kitchen, so it's 200 square feet. And for, there were times when we had a third person in there, but not necessarily. So your labor's down, your expenses, upfront expenses are down, and you're making money sooner than, waiting on your return to come in about 3 years. It's coming in 3 months. So that's how fast you can turn these things on. And it also gets you to be creative with your product. If one brand isn't necessarily catching the crowd's eye, if they're not biting onto that one concept, you get to get creative with the products that you have and change it up. Maybe, like for instance, what I did was I created a new brand instead of pizza brand, I did a calzone brand, and then added a few pizzas on there to use the same ingredients. It's really focused on a new topic, but using the same ingredients. The other thing is we added like another pizza brand out of the same location, and it's basically it's just one size pizza. So it's a 12-inch pizza. You can get a cauliflower crust, which is gluten-free, plant-based, or you can go a hand tossed. So it gives you the flexibility to be creative and to develop more brands. If you're not seeing the traction that you want, you can just keep adding brands.
So basically, when you say that you have multiple brands in there, it's probably important for people to recognize that you're actually doing different concepts, but maybe some of the ingredients may be similar. And that's how you're able to do this in such a smaller footprint. I mean, basically you said it was like 200 square feet. It would be hard to try to do a wing concept and a burger concept and a pizza concept, because the amount of ingredients you would need would require more mostly too. Yeah, equipment and all that. So
exactly.
What about, how does it work, Steven, for people that are thinking about going into a space and they say, man, oh man, 200 square foot, what are you going to be able to fit in there? I mean, what if what about storage? We all need more storage in restaurants. Like, what are the options if you can't fit everything in that 200 square foot space? Or can you get more than one kitchen and combine them? Or, what about your paper goods? I mean, what are your concepts going crazy and you need another refrigerator?
Well, that's a great question. There's like, where I started out was that 200 square foot space. I mean, I started out doing 6 orders a day. I mean, I'd wait by the printer for it to go off. And, when it went off, I was like, oh, we got an order, we're hit. And so we did that. And then, we went from 6 orders a day to 20 orders a day to 30 orders a day, 60. And right now we did, just the other day, we did 130 orders. That is killer. And so, from being 200 square foot being enough space, there are units in a parts of the building, and every building is going to be a little bit different, and every facility is going to be different. But what we have the ability to do is, I'm growing a little bit. Let me rent one of their coolers. So there's a 8 square foot cooler that we could rent. And then we moved into that. And then once I found out that, I'm getting, a lot of pizza boxes, a lot of paper products. I have a little shed at my house and my living room kind of filled up that I was using. I would order stuff, bring it home and store it here to avoid that cost. But, if I needed to, I could rent out some dry storage from them also. And then if there's freezer that's needed, then you can rent out a freezer. So you can kind of customize your business as you see fit as you grow. And as you pull back, sometimes the business drops a little bit, like we are having a little bit of a January funk, January restaurants kind of slow down a little bit, and we're seeing it too. So we can just, hey, we're not going to rent that cooler this month, and we just take that off the bill. So you can grow or you can shrink to the volume that you're experiencing.
Steven, do any of the people use the kitchens for anything other than a restaurant concept? Like, do you have anybody that preps for like a food truck or tries to run a catering, or do like the metrics just not work?
No, we have that also. There are people, so everybody's business is unique to them. And, where their cash comes from is totally how they envision it. There are a lot of people who started cooking in their home and then grew up out of their home with their business. Like me, I was cooking pizzas on my back deck. And then I moved in. I was thinking about a food truck, but then I thought about Atlanta traffic. It was kind of crazy. Yeah. So then, and then permitting and all the headaches, and I scrapped that idea and I stumbled upon a cloud kitchen. So I moved into a cloud kitchen. But people still use the kitchen, and they can turn off any one of these brands at any time, as far as on the platforms. So unlike a restaurant, when you're at capacity and they're just, you want to turn the tables as much as you can. And then once the butt is in the seat, you own it. And sometimes they have a bad experience, and it's overwhelming, especially for the kitchen. But like in this platform, if I'm taking on like 20 orders, and sometimes 20 orders will hit me in like a matter of 5 minutes or less. Like no one knows that everyone else is online ordering. Right. So they're just hitting the button and it's coming right in. And once I'm full, I'll pause my system, which basically pulls me back off these platforms temporarily until I feel comfortable enough to open the gates back up or open the doors to allow more orders to flow through. And so that's how I can kind of gauge the volume of business. But to your point, if you're doing a food truck, you can completely shut down for a day and, put it on social media, put on your website that you're going to be closed, and just take yourself off the platforms. I did that when I did a movie, like in April, we filmed a Lifetime movie, and I was just doing the numbers. I was like, oh, this is going to be more money than I could make that weekend. So I'm going to shut down this weekend. I'm going to take that gig and, open back up on Tuesday.
Steven, one thing I feel like, you're somebody that, over the pandemic, you really went out there and obviously figured out a way to be nimble and creative and to, launch this concept. And, a lot of people were kind of just standing still and saying, well, I'm just going to keep doing the same thing and business will come back. And we're starting to see now that the market share is still there. People are eating, but they are ordering from places like you. Like they're not going out to as many restaurants. So I feel like there's a great opportunity here if people understand the concept and if there's a way they can make it work. But my question to you is that if somebody says, well, I'm in kind of a smaller town, we don't have a cloud kitchen with 48 kitchens, but we do have Uber Eats and we have DoorDash, all these different online platforms. Could I do this in our restaurant and create maybe a different concept out the back door, if you will? So maybe you have a steakhouse and you're saying, who's coming and spending $150 on, a strip steak on a Tuesday night? And it's hard to go and just change your concept, but could that steakhouse maybe run a casual traditional Italian fare that exists online? Could you do that?
Absolutely. And so this is a great one for those restaurants that are smaller. They see that the drop in sales, and 40% of revenue in restaurants are going to be takeout. and delivery. So absolutely, this gives you an ability to look at your menu, break it apart a little bit, and say, if I have steaks on my menu, then that's a brand right there. And then you can say I have salad, and that's a brand. So you can develop a brand off of the categories of your menu. If you have desserts on your menu, that's a brand. You can come up with a brand that if you're doing a pastry area and your pastries aren't working, selling as much in the restaurant, you want to push them out a little bit more, develop a sweet treats brand for all these platforms. They put them on. It costs you nothing up front to be on these platforms. And it costs you nothing up front to create as many brands, as we say, as you want. So you can add 5 orders, 10 orders a day per brand. Then, you just do the math and say, gosh, I need to hit 60 orders a day just to break even or to make a little bit extra money. Come up with 6 brands if you'd like and launch them. And if you get 10 orders per brand, then you're good.
And so people who are coming, for example, into a restaurant per se, they wouldn't know necessarily that these ghost kitchens are going out through the back door, like we're saying. Is that kind of what you're saying?
All right. So, you can, there's a multitude of ways to handle this. There's delivery, like driver instructions, that you can say, hey, go around back for pickup or come through the front door, or you can lean in and just say, hey, yeah, we are launching our garden salad brand online, and this is the section of the menu. You put that logo on your window and welcome them in. Say, hey, yeah, this is our brand for this section of the menu, and that's what we're featuring this week. So make it a feature. You don't have to hide anything. It doesn't have to be a ghost.
Yeah, you can almost use it as like a kind of something to entice people to want to try our online virtual concept. And the other thing I think that it does is when you look at the brand itself, it gives you an opportunity to be innovative and try something different. Whereas your loyal customers would be very upset if they came in and you've been open for 10 years and you've already kind of defined what, your experience is and what your food is. So it's kind of hard to like take some of those things off the menu or to put something new on, because you're going to liquidate the trust of a lot of your long-standing customers. But to recreate something that exists online using some of those same ingredients, you can go smaller portions. You can kind of, as you mentioned, kind of make a calzone, something maybe somebody wouldn't expect to see on the menu. So I think it kind of gives you the opportunity to really be pretty nimble and to try different things that you really can't do. Especially if you're a restaurant that's been open for a long, long time. You've already kind of defined to your customers who you are, and they have an expectation when they come in that it's harder to change those things.
Yeah, and to talk a little bit more about the menu, think of like when you're on these platforms, you want to have about 10 items on the menu. Otherwise, it starts to get a little confusing. Maybe you could have a little bit more, but to have 50 options is kind of like cumbersome. So you can take, let's say, if you have mashed potatoes, mac and cheese, and let's say scalloped potatoes.
That could be a brand. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. My headphones died.
That's okay.
Out of power. So like you have these 3 things, and people love to customize. If you can choose your starch, choose your meat topping, choose your vegetable topping. We did like a barbecue sundae, and you can do like different toppings, and customers really like to customize. If you're in a restaurant where, you're doing barbecue, that'd be something really cool to have a customized barbecue sundae bar brand. And then customers can, switch up their starch, switch up their protein, switch up their veg, and have it as a sundae.
Steven, what about for the people out there that have heard all these platforms take so much of a percentage and, I don't want to do it because I'm worried that it's going to cannibalize all of our profit. What do you do? I mean, will people pay
That's a good question.
the extra cost for a pizza?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you, my kids have no problem going on my phone and placing an order for McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or whatever, and no matter what the cost is. So I feel
that's
like
a great question.
Yeah.
My answer to that is you just got to do the math and find out what that percentage is.
Right.
And you got to just got to incorporate that into the cost of your product. Now, here goes where you're sort of saving that money is in the labor. You know, to run that restaurant, it does cost a little bit more labor, more overhead. I mean, in our cost of running this kitchen, I mean, there's night cleaners that clean the kitchen for us. So we don't have to do that. We don't have to pay for the hood cleanings. So there are certain areas of cost that we could eliminate or gets absorbed into another area that we can kind of move the numbers around. You just got to do the math. For us, we were able to get a little bit less of a percentage because we were doing like so well on their platform, and we were able to negotiate to go down some, but it's always going to be between 20 to 30%.
But also, I mean, I think people are using the traditional restaurant model metrics, and this is a different model.
Yeah.
You don't have the same. I mean, you can't say, well, your labor should be this, 30% and food costs 30 and 20% for this. And it's just, that's out the window. It is a different model. And people have got to, like you said, go back to the books and really forecast what do you need to do in sales. And this is the new labor number. This is the new rent. This is the new cost of goods. This is spoilage. And you're just working with a completely different model. So I think people that are going into it trying to say, well, I've been running restaurants for 20 years and I know what this should be and this should be, that's out the window. It's a completely different business model.
Yeah. And I think we're still, at least I am still trying to figure out the numbers in a way, because like COVID's and the great the great resignation and, with people coming back to the workforce, they are requesting more. So that labor cost is going up. So It's really important to make sure that you're working the numbers. Maybe you're incentivizing in different ways and folding them into the business as far as like compensation goes. But that's the least of my concerns is the commissions that I pay out. Because the other thing too is the food cost has gone up, and it's continuing to go up. As long as that is in the news, unfortunately, we have to charge more for our product.
Right.
And so as long as it's in the news, I just keep an eye on the numbers. And if I unfortunately have to raise them, then I have to raise them. And that hasn't stopped the orders from coming in.
Hey, everybody, I want to take a second to say thank you to our sponsors. This show is brought to you by the following partners. Meat and Bone. These guys are just doing an exciting thing in the Miami and Florida area. Check out their website. They offer premium quality meats hand delivered to your door if you live in the Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach area. But also they ship nationally. And you can also visit them at some of their boutique locations in the Florida area. These guys came up to our recent barbecue class and they brought all sorts of amazing cuts of meat, steaks, brisket. Listen, if you're looking for quality steaks like you would get in a restaurant, check these guys out. They've got some incredible selection and top-notch quality. Check out their website. Also, Ovention Oven. These ovens are just incredible. We've used these during the pandemic. They really helped us kind of pivot and reposition ourselves so that we were able to expand our menu without having to make expensive investments in the kitchen. These ovens offer an innovative solution to restaurant operations, opening up a whole new realm of possibilities with your menus. The Ovention ovens are ventless. They're fast and operationally friendly in cooking. What we do is we program our recipes in the oven, and our cooks just press a button of the image of what they're going to cook. It's a whole new way of cooking. Check out their entire line of Ovention ovens. And of course, Steelite. Steelite International has remained an incredible partner of Rosendale Collective. They are an internationally world-leading manufacturer of award-winning inspirational dinnerware for the international hospitality industry. They've been a longtime partner of Rosendale Collective, and they're getting ready to sponsor us with some incredible tableware for our new section on Rosendale Online, and we can't wait to see what they're going to come up with. Also, check out Dry Ager. Dry Ager offers a level of unprecedented quality for both restaurant and home dry aging programs. They make the most amazing dry aging meat cabinets in the industry. They are designed with sophisticated technology. They're made in Germany, and you can get incomparable taste of restaurant quality steak in the comfort of your own home. Thanks again to our following sponsors: Meat and Bone, Ovention Oven, Steelite International, and Dry Ager. Now, back to the show. Steven, what trends do you see in the ghost kitchen concepts, at least from your perspective in the Atlanta market? What do you see that seem to be on trend with consumers? Like, what are people eating?
I think plant-based saved my business.
Really?
Yeah. There was this first couple months I was in the kitchen and I'm making, loaded meat pizza, pepperoni. And then, one of my neighbors across the hall was doing plant-based burgers. That's all he's doing. And he said, yeah, you should try to put that on the menu. I've had so many people on Instagram ask me, do you do plant-based cheesy bread? Do you do plant-based, calzones? And I was so slow at the time. I was replying back to anyone who was messaging me, and I was on Instagram. I was doing my own marketing all the time. I think I was probably in everyone's feed in that general area, like all the time. Order late night and so on. So I got a message that said, hey, do you do vegan calzones? And I said, yes, I do. And I looked around the kitchen and said, all right, what vegetables do I have? And I started typing up the menu right there, and I uploaded the menu like literally within minutes on Uber Eats. And then that customer that messaged me literally just ordered that calzone that I just put on the menu.
That's awesome.
And I said, I named it Vegan Me Crazy calzone. So,
I mean, I gotta admit, over the last probably 4 months, I kind of stopped. I don't want to say I stopped, but I really, on Fridays when the kids get pizza, I used to devour the pizza with them because I love pizza, but I've been eating cauliflower pizza with my wife, and I load it up with lots of vegetables, and it's satisfies the craving. It's not exactly the same, but I can see how you're getting it's, oh my God, you go to the grocery store and it's not like there's one cauliflower pizza. There's all kinds of, there's different brands, there's different toppings. So you can definitely see the momentum. Another thing is we've seen a lot of multi concepts where people are just doing a very narrow focus on one thing, like just meatballs or just plant-based burgers, where sometimes I feel like, especially us kind of coming from the resort and hotel and restaurant, you always feel like you have to have these big menus and something for everybody. But some of these concepts are they're pretty narrow. It's like, you ask yourself, hey, what do you want to eat tonight? Like, oh, I want pizza, or I want a plant-based, those are the questions people ask. And it seems like some of the brands that are really taken off they're pretty focused.
Yeah, it just goes back to also that space issue. We don't have a lot of space to store a lot of things. So if it's just hot dogs that we're doing, we're going to try to figure out as many ways as we can make as many different styles of hot dogs that we can with the amount of ingredients we have. Same thing, like I said, with pizza dough. You can do a flatbread concept. I was thinking about a cheesy bread concept that, customers can just get cheesy bread and then choose whatever pizza toppings to put on it. Some people would say, isn't that just pizza? But it's like, well, I mean, I cut it into strips, and the customers are liking it, and they get to dip the sauce. So the other thing too is a lot of customers like to customize their everything. I mean, everything likes to be customized. So having those options on there is available for us on all of our brands. The other thing too is, if you are to pivot slightly into, let's say, like I said, I'm doing pizza, we can use the same pizza sauce recipe that and add more basil, or just change it slightly. And we have spaghetti sauce. And now we can do a spaghetti concept, pasta concept. And, a lot of people like to just add toppings to their pastas and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's, I feel like having a wide range of customizations customers really enjoy.
Another thing is, I would say, I mean, a lot of our listeners out there know that we love the business aspect of everything as much as we do the culinary and the food aspect of it. But if for people that are out there looking and they want to try to start a company or grow a business, that, as you mentioned, the brands, if you think about the way that a company is valuated, its value, it really has to do with what its sales volume is. And if you wanted to go and create like a Chipotle, and you wanted to start opening up all those stores across America, you would need so much capital to be able to launch something like that, because the brick and mortar, the infrastructure, the real estate is so expensive. And what this opportunity gives you is the ability to launch a brand that can still generate those sales. And in a year, if you were to have 50 of your locations, you don't need that same kind of startup capital, and you would still have a company that would have that same valuation, because that is what determines the value of the company, is the sales volume. So when you're talking about looking at these brands, that's the real value in this. And you don't really know which brand is going to, people are going to react to. And sometimes you might think it's this one, but they like this one. And that's why also to have at least a couple of chances on those online platforms for somebody to pick one of your pizzas over the other person's, it makes sense to have multiple concepts, or brands rather, on those platforms, because they're another chance to sell some of your product. And you may find the plant-based one is going crazy. And just imagine if a year from now you have 30 of those. Well, there's real value there. And you didn't have to spend all this money on the infrastructure to go out and build, 20 brick and mortar locations. I mean, it's really kind of out of reach for a lot of people. So this is, I guess in some ways, it's kind of like leveled the playing field for entrepreneurs to be able to compete with a great product and have an accelerated like growth trajectory in a very short amount of time without the amount of risk that you would have had to have done otherwise.
Yeah, I think someone like me, I mean, this would have been either, really good for me or really bad, because I'm a guy with a lot of ideas, and I just want to throw them out there. And each brand is an idea, and it's another way that you can get like revenue. And that's the goal, is to get all this revenue as much as you can within reason, and still serve a good quality product and come up with a brand that other people enjoy. I think of the brands as like, if you go fishing, it's like, I don't go with one fishing rod. I take two. It's like you throw one.
Are you allowed to do that?
Yeah. Yeah. I throw one line out there with a bobber, and then I'll just go over here with
I'm going to start doing that. Okay.
With a reel. I'll reel one in. So I have one sitting with a bobber, and then I'm doing a reeling bait. And then, I might catch two fish, or, if they're biting on the different bait this week or something like that. So, that's how I look at it. Some people might have roots one week and said, that was great, and then I'm going to try calzones this week. And, the other thing is to do a little bit of research in your market and make sure that you're not, if there's 3 pizza places in the same building, then that's kind of difficult. So you just gotta, maybe choose another product, or your product has to be better. But I know that, Asian food, Chinese takeouts, and pizza are like what has been comforting to a lot of people lately. And so that's why I went in with pizza.
Do you get to choose which delivery service you use? Or is that just presented to you? You get all these, or how does that work?
Yeah, no, you can choose whichever delivery service you want, but your best bet is to choose them all. Again, for that same reason, just as a brand being a fishing line in the water, each platform is another, in a sense, fishing line in the water. So a lot of people have different meal subscriptions through these platforms. Some are, Uber Eats, and some are DoorDash loyalists. Some do Postmates, and some do Grubhub, and some just don't even want to mess with them and go directly to the consumer, which is their website, which takes less commissions. So you're in best shape to probably have them all. And, if you have it really depends on where you are with your business. Sometimes for me, it's like, gosh, I'm getting too busy. So instead of me shutting down all of the platforms, I just turn off the 2 that are getting the most orders right now. And then it gives the customer probably another avenue to place an order if they want to, but some, it just slows down orders. So you would probably want to go with all of them if you can.
Rachel, it'd be interesting to do a little research while you're in Italy now. If there's any ghost kitchens and what the whole ghost kitchen scene looks like, we'll have to maybe do a follow-up conversation on that. I'm curious just to see how that's going in Europe and other parts of the world.
Yeah.
And really, you can see how scaling a concept up, or say duplicating this, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easier than to try to say, hey, I'm going to open up my concept in Miami. You can literally fly down to meet with Chris, and you rent another kitchen, and boom, you have a concept launch because you have a model, you have a template.
You're more than welcome, Steven.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so, we're talking about this, and, another thing too, that photographs sell food. And that's also what brings in a lot of our orders, is to make sure that you have good content out there, a good social media presence, however you attract your customers, that you're presenting your brands as well as what your food is, because your food can be really good, but if you have no eye candy, right, it doesn't bring them in. And Steven, so that's another thing.
How much would you rate from 1 to 10? How important is social media for you in any of your brands?
So honestly, maybe 6 or an 8. I mean, in between, maybe 7. Here's the thing. It really depends on you and your business, because there's a lot of people who don't even bother with that and just go hardcore into the platforms.
They go right to the app to place their order. Yeah.
Because here's the thing. They just, you have, as an operator, you have the option to do certain promotions and sponsors and different deals that you can put you in different categories within each platform. So like you can do a BOGO deal and it puts you into this little slot, and then you could do a little paid ad and you're getting to this spot. So you're showing up into more feeds within each platform. So you can kind of spread it out a little bit. If you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, just spread it out. And a little bit of social media is great, a little bit of this, but it really depends on your business and your idea and how you connect to your customers.
Steven, can you tell us, especially for all the listeners out there that are in the Atlanta metro, what are all the brands that you're running out of the kitchen currently? And is there a company website where they can go to see all of those?
Yeah. So, the ones that I have is Well, I'm running the Roots Local Pizza, and they have the rootslocalpizza.com. And then you can go on any of the delivery platforms, Grubhub, Uber Eats, Postmates, and DoorDash. And then my main brand is the Pizza Pit. You can go to thepizzapit.com. That's pit with 2 T's. And then we have Craving Calzones, which is cravingcalzones.com. We have a brand called Drew's Pizza, which is drewspizza.com. And then we have Brookhaven Calzone, which is, we haven't launched a website for it yet. So that one is strictly on the platforms. And then there was 2 more brands that I'm working on called Forest Planted Pizza and Absolute Pizza. So those haven't launched yet, but the ones that I'd mentioned, you could see most of my brands they're all in various stages, of course. But my main website is sogoodfoodgroup.com, and you'll be able to kind of get connected to each of those from there.
So Steven's strategy in this is to saturate the pizza market.
Yes.
And if you order a pizza online, there's a pretty good chance that he made it.
That is right.
Steven,
the other thing too is we're licensing out these brands too. So I'm using it as, like I said, my mind doesn't stop. So I keep going with these ideas of what kind of pizza, like, could I just do one size? Could I do 2 different choices? Could I do calzones? And could I do flatbreads? And so to develop the menu, to get the visual content, to establish pricing and spec the products for customers and what I mean by customers in this avenue is maybe there's restaurants that aren't pulling in that revenue that they anticipated, that you can pitch a concept to them and they can give you a commissions of the sales, or it's almost in a way of franchising. So if somebody wants to open a pizza pit in Miami, then the brand is already established. It's already there. And then we just give them the tools to do it. And then they make the revenue. They give us a little bit of commissions.
And one thing, just as everybody out there knows, that we're really big into, as you mentioned, like the pictures and the product really looking craveable and yummy and delicious all the time. And I remember when we did the photo shoot with the Pizza Pit and the Roots Local Pizza, it seemed like almost like overnight you could see the sales start to increase when those pictures were added to the platforms. It was just like, wow, because it was almost like the menu was missing something when you didn't have that like great photography. People like to see the product now, and you're competing with other very compelling products. I mean, if I'm getting ready to place an order and I look at yours compared to this one, I'm like, well, this looks really good, and I'm willing to pay a little extra for it.
I know personally.
Go ahead, Rachel.
I was just going to say, I know personally, if I'm scrolling through Uber Eats or an app or something, and I don't see pictures, I'm going to go to a restaurant that has pictures.
Right.
I want to see the product, so I could see how your sales would increase as soon as you added pictures. I want to see what I'm ordering. And
it almost makes you feel like it's more of a established, you have more trust. Like, okay, this place,
right.
It's kind of passed the test of legitimate restaurant, versus one where it's got all these like, missing images. You're kind of like, so I agree.
Or even comparing,
right.
If I see a picture of a Chinese food from this restaurant versus a picture of somebody else's Chinese food from a different restaurant, one looks better than the other, I'm obviously going to go with the one that looks better.
Yeah.
Steven, in Atlanta, what's the top selling pizza and what is the busiest hour of the day for you guys?
Yeah. So as much as I say vegan food saved vegan pizza saved us or whatnot, it's still cheese pizza. Cheese pizza still is number one all the time. And so our busiest hours are, a lot of people eat late here. it's just, I remember when I just launched and I was open, I was like, okay, let's try to figure this out. When do people eat in Atlanta? And I opened at 10 o'clock in the morning and I stayed there all day until 1 o'clock in the morning. And then I didn't get orders until like midnight or 11 o'clock. And then I was starting to get orders at 1. Our busiest time right now is like 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:30 in the morning. And it kind of goes in waves because there are a certain set of drivers that start to pick up on this concept of virtual kitchen and how much business they can get there. So a fleet of drivers would show up and get all those orders. And then it would almost like slow down a little bit. Those orders, those delivery, dashers and drivers are out there delivering the food. And once they do a drop, we're starting to get another wave of orders and then they come right back. So it's kind of been a little bit of a trend. And when I started there, I was one of the first kitchens in that building. And like I said, it was like crickets. And then it just, more kitchens came on. I think restaurant density also has to do with the algorithms that drive traffic to your restaurant. So the more restaurants in one area, you're more than likely to pick up more orders because drivers do deliver more than one order at a time.
And just to also kind of expand, obviously we wanted to bring Steven on to the show to be able to talk about his whole launch of the concepts. He has also been consulting with us on a new project in Washington, D.C., which was announced late last year, of opening up a Roots concept in D.C. proper, along with 6 ghost kitchens that would be behind Roots. So he has played really a big role in giving a lot of great insight as to what we can do to be able to put something out there so that other entrepreneurs can get in there and be successful. Because I feel like trying to clear the path so that if somebody has an idea and there's something that they want to do and it's a great product, in the past, some of the stuff's been unattainable. It's like you have to come in with like so much money to try to launch a concept. And guess what? If it doesn't work, it destroys you. But with a ghost kitchen, you go 3 months into it. And as Steven's mentioning, you got maybe one of the pizza concepts or the calzones didn't really get any traction. Big deal. You scrap it and you try something else. You still are moving. You still got momentum. I mean, there's so much upside. And I think that's why we wanted to be able to talk and educate, not just, budding entrepreneurs who may are thinking about testing the water and doing this themselves, but also for consumers. Because I know there's people out there like my mom that's like, what's a ghost kitchen? Is this like paranormal theory? It's like, well, let me explain. So that's, I really appreciate you, Steven, coming on and kind of sharing some of your insight. I think, really fascinating and hats off to what you've been able to accomplish. I mean, there's
a lot to it.
Impressive.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, and it's all about the numbers and stuff like that. So the last thing I'd say is like, this is a numbers game. So you got to keep investing into yourself, into the brand, into your next step, and so on. And, gosh, if you can get 5 of these up and running, then I think you're set.
Well, great. I think we're pretty much at the top of the hour. Anything else, Rachel? Chris?
I have one more question that is actually from the other side of the business. It's actually two. One is, what would you say to the people that they feel stuck and they want to do something different, but they are afraid of? That it was basically probably something that you were thinking for a long time before you step on it, and you said like, you know what? Let's do it. I was going to say something else, but and then the second one is how hard, because for everyone that is listening out there, you have a family, you have kids. How hard was to take that decision to kind of like to take off your business and say like, you know what, this is my moment, this is my momentum. I have to think about my future, my kids and everything. And I cannot rely on a company or on a paycheck, and I want to do my own. How hard was that?
Extremely hard. Probably the hardest thing I've ever did, that in the apprenticeship program at the Greenbrier, because the sleepless nights are there, and then the worry. And then, I didn't have any money to get into this. I went out and I applied for 7 credit cards that gave me the amount of money. And I remember counting the change, all the way down to the change on each credit card, which was basically maxed out, and saying, okay, put half of it was do I need onions today or lettuce? And it's and I needed both. So I would start shopping in different areas, but I would put half on one credit card and then half on another. And then at some point I just said, okay, I gotta cash flow this. And then I just started paying everything with cash. And then I just started making more money, and I just put more hours. And then eventually I just started paying off the credit cards. I am at 0 debt with these credit cards now. Wow. And my credit score is through the roof because of it. And so it was because I started this little business in a little place, and you have to believe in yourself. And you have to show, you have people around you. Like Chef Rosendale was a great support for me. Chris, I would called you many times on my walks prior to opening this. I would walk for miles to think about how could I do this? What's the money? What's, everything going on. And then I would come home and see my kids. And at some point I was like, all right. And Rachel was there too, because she was my sous chef at Rosendale Events. And she said, Chef, I got you. You got this. And before she moved to Florida, I was like, okay, when can you start? She's like, now. And so she got that gig. I was so happy for her in Florida. And then it was just me. So I was in the kitchen hustling, and it just manifested. You just got to be positive. I'm all about binaural beats and good vibes and stuff like that, and hard work and pushing yourself. And you just hang in there, and you got to figure it out. It's not easy at all. So,
and, I also too, I also, for a lot of people that maybe don't know, you were down there as the executive chef at Rosendale Events. You got us up and running and launched. You really did, you and Rachel, really did an amazing job in getting that place up and running. We have consistently as a company, we've done things that people probably would terrify people in doing. We literally, Chris threw a trucker cap on and drove down to Atlanta from DC.
I didn't even remember that. That's
filled with equipment. And we literally signed a contract with Delta to do 50 parties with no equipment in the kitchen. And we made it all happen. And that's really just kind of shows that when things get difficult, as they did for you, Steven, and Rachel, the catering industry was just eviscerated. We were losing business, and having to cough up refunds and stuff for people that just were canceling events. And that whole year, it was basically illegal to be in business pretty much as far as catering. You weren't allowed to do catering. And we had a big staff, as everyone knows, and we had a big sales team and a big culinary team. And I never wanted to, talk you out of staying. We were bringing you back on there, but you were like, hey, look, my heart is in continuing to build this business. And I told you, I was like, I'm behind you 100%. And obviously we've still continued to work together through this as a family. And we're still a huge supporter of everything that you do. And the thing is, you just really never know. You really never know what's going to happen. You just have to try things. And as you said, you were terrified and scared sometimes. I tell a lot of people, there's been so many times in my life where I've been afraid to make a decision, but you got to do it. You can make a lot of mistakes in your life and in your career, and you end up still being okay. But you really only have to make 1 or 2 good decisions that can profoundly change your life forever. But a lot of people are so terrified that they're going to make a mistake that they don't make any decisions, and then nothing ends up happening. And the proof is in the pudding. You're doing well, and you've paid off your initial investment. And one of the big reasons of bringing you on to the show is that your story, I think, is going to resonate and motivate and inspire a lot of other listeners of our show. And that's really a big, that's something that we really believe in. We want to continue to do that. So thanks for doing everything you've done. And it's an inspiring story. And, you'll be knocking on Papa John's doors here pretty soon, buying that mansion.
I put my bandana on and then it got scrappy,
Yes.
Steven, I got one last question for you. I see your So Good Food Group logo has a pineapple on it, and I am currently living in Italy, so please don't break my heart. Does pineapple sell on your pizzas?
Yeah, I mean, they do. I mean,
good question.
Vegan Hawaiian pizzas are like outselling Hawaiian pizzas.
Really?
No way.
Yeah, they go for the vegan cheese, the mushrooms. We have some some plant-based sausage, and with pineapple. Pineapple in Atlanta is everything, and the pineapple is in my logo stands for hospitality. That's awesome. It's always welcoming.
Right. She was worried I was standing for pizza toppings.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You're
okay. Yeah.
All right. But, awesome, man. Thank you. Thank you very much. And we'll definitely stay in touch, and hopefully we'll be able to bring some of those brands up here to the DC area too. So awesome. in Miami. So all right. Take care, Steven.
Steven.
Thank you, Steven.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
See ya.